Fire. It's been with us since the dawn of humanity. It's a tool, sure, but it's also one of our oldest, most primal fears. For thousands of years, our only strategy has been to fight it after it's already started. But what if we could stop it before it even really gets going? Today, we're going to look at a pretty wild projection of how AI is set to evolve and how it could one day make the disaster of fire a thing of the past.
Just think about that for a second. A world where the destructive power of fire is neutralized. I don't just mean controlled or contained, I mean made completely obsolete. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? Well, the path to get there is actually being built right now, piece by piece, through the evolution of artificial intelligence.
So let's walk through this roadmap. We're going to break this down into three major phases of AI. First, what's happening now through about 2030 is the era of ANI, or Artificial Narrow Intelligence. We'll call this the Guardian. Then from 2030 onward, things get a lot more interesting, with AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, or the Commander. And finally, looking way out to 2040 and beyond, we get to ASI, Artificial Superintelligence, which basically acts as the operating system of reality. Let's dive into each one.
Okay, so let's start right here, in the present, with the tech that's already being deployed, Artificial Narrow Intelligence. The best way to think about ANI is as a kind of digital superhuman fire watchman. It can't think for itself in a general sense, but what it can do, it does with senses and speed that are just way beyond any human capability.
To really get why ANI is a game changer, just look at the difference. Before, what do we rely on? Our own eyes and nose. We see smoke, we smell something burning, we call for help. By that point, the fire has a serious head start. With ANI, though, detection can happen at the scorched smell stage. We're talking microscopic levels. Predictions are based on hard physics, and the alert is sent out automatically and instantly.
So how does it actually pull this off? Well, NAI follows this really simple but incredibly effective three-step process. First, it detects. It senses the tiny signs that are totally invisible to us. Second, it predicts. It runs the numbers and calculates exactly how and where that fire is likely to spread. And third, it alerts. And it doesn't just call the fire department, it can automatically trigger a response from drones and other automated systems.
And these senses AI has are just on another level. For example, its computer vision can see the unique light wavelength of a real flame, so it doesn't get fooled by flashing lights, even in thick fog. It has an electronic nose that can literally smell the microscopic chemicals and electrical wire releases when it overheats, way before you'd ever see smoke. For wildfires, satellites are constantly scanning infrared data, able to spot a tiny hotspot in a forest the size of a city.
So if you boil it all down, this is the key. The single biggest enemy in any fire is time. That gap between when a fire starts and when someone actually notices it, that's the discovery delay, and it's often fatal. The entire job of ANI is to crush that delay down to almost zero.
All right, so that's ANI. Now let's jump forward to the next phase, kicking off around 2030. This is Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI. And this isn't just an upgrade, it's a total paradigm shift. AGI doesn't just send you a notification about a fire, it becomes the autonomous commander on the scene, making its own strategic decisions.
So what's the big difference? It's all about understanding. An AGI has a holistic, human-like grasp of how everything connects. It doesn't just see data. It understands the physics of how a building might collapse, the chemistry of what's burning, the engineering of the city grid, and get this, even the psychology of how crowds are going to panic and react. And with that kind of understanding, you get this concept called integrated defense. See, an AIGI doesn't just see one building on fire. It sees the entire city as a single, living organism that's under attack. And its response is to instantly shift the entire urban ecosystem into a coordinated defense mode.
And what does that actually look like? Well, the moment a fire is confirmed, AGI is already shutting down a building's entire ventilation system to starve the fire of oxygen. It's rerouting every car in a 10-block radius to create a perfectly clear path for fire trucks. It's even managing the city's water grid, redirecting pressure to the hydrants that need it most. All of this happening in milliseconds.
And it's not just controlling the city's infrastructure. AGI acts like a general, commanding a whole army of different kinds of robots. We're talking about a swarm of machines, drones attacking from above, dog-like robots scrambling over rubble, and even humanoid bots going inside to rescue people, all of them working together with perfect, inhuman coordination.
So, to make it super simple, ANI is the notifier. It's an amazing scout that gives us humans better information so we can make the decisions. AGI, though, is the scene commander.
It makes the decisions and takes action itself, all with one goal: protecting human life.
Okay, now we're going to take an even bigger leap forward, out to 2040 and beyond. This is where things start to feel almost magical. This is artificial superintelligence, or ASI. And here, the goal isn't just to fight fires better. The goal is to make the very idea of an uncontrolled fire totally obsolete.
The shift in thinking here is just massive. Listen to this. ASI doesn't just extinguish a fire, it eliminates the actual phenomenon of burning itself. It's a fundamental change in our relationship with physics.
So how on earth is that even possible? Well, the first piece of the puzzle is molecular nanotechnology. Just imagine the air around you is filled with trillions of invisible microscopic machines. The absolute instant the conditions for a fire begin, that first spark, these nanomachines go to work at the atomic level, physically stopping the chemical reaction of combustion before it can even produce a visible flame.
The second piece is programmable matter. In this future, the stuff we build our world with is actually intelligent. A wall isn't just a wall. If it gets too hot, its molecules are programmed to literally rearrange themselves. Maybe they transform into a material that actively sucks heat out of the air like a coolant, or they reform into a super-dense, fireproof shield. The building itself becomes the fire extinguisher.
And on the macro scale, the power is just breathtaking. If a huge forest fire threatens to start, AISI doesn't send a plane. It taps into the planet's climate systems. It would manipulate humidity and temperature on a local level to create a precise, targeted rainstorm right over the hotspot, putting it out before it ever had a chance to become a real threat. So you see, the whole way we think about the problem has changed. In a world run by an ASI, a fire is no longer a catastrophe. It's a bug. It's a simple physical error in the system that gets instantly and automatically patched.
So let's bring this all home. We've really gone on a journey here through 3 totally different eras of AI. And we've watched AI's role evolve from a simple guardian to, well, something much, much more powerful.
You can really sum up the whole journey by looking at these 3 things. The approach goes from just finding and reporting with ANI to commanding and defending with AGI, and finally to completely eliminating and invalidating the threat with ASI. The underlying technology evolves from basic statistics to an understanding of cause and effect, all the way to controlling matter at the quantum and molecular level. And maybe most importantly, our role as humans changes. We go from being aided by a tool to being protected by a leader to finally just being an inhabitant of a system that is fundamentally safe.
What this all leads to is humanity will have finally truly tamed fire. We'll be able to use all of its amazing energy without ever having to fear its destructive side. The two will be separated forever.
It's a pretty incredible future to imagine, and it kind of leaves you with one last big question. Once we've used technology like this to solve an ancient problem like fire, what other fundamental challenges of our world will we point it at next?